Hello, welcome to a very special episode of Movie Time with Matt and Derek. I'm Matthew Lyons.
And I'm Derek Tirrell.
And we are joined today with a very special guest, Mr. Ian Deming.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good,
Doing great.
Good. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh my God. First time, long time.
Yeah.
So, we are here today to talk about Hollywood's latest phenomenon, not the strikes, Barbenheimer. This past couple weekends were very, very profitable for the movie industry.
Yeah.
First time in kind of a long time, with two big hits, Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all seen both films.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about your experience with Barbenheimer.
So the interesting thing that I learned about the Barbenheimer phenomenon of basically two movies that are kind of seen as like opposites that
Yes.
both open really well and perhaps in some ways are whatever the opposite of cannibalizing box office is.
They're
is
helping
Right.
each other.
whatever that word is.
Yeah.
But building off of each other so that they're both really successful. I realized that this has happened with Christopher Nolan before.
It
Yes.
has.
Yes.
In
I was going to bring that up.
2008,
With
The
Mamma
Dark
Mia.
Knight and Mamma Mia
Yes.
both opened
It
the same
seems
day.
that every few years we are tested. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Christopher Nolan is tested.
Yes.
But what's interesting about this time is that Nolan has switched sides, and he has left the Warner Brothers side and gone over to Universal. Long-time Warner Brothers person. I think he got out at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Based on what's going on over there. Hope they can get back on track. But yeah, it's always a good thing to see.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he had stayed with Warner Brothers and they released Oppenheimer on streaming the
On
same day
Max?
as
Oh my God.
70 millimeter IMAX,
Crazy.
Yeah.
or watch it at home?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
No, he wasn't letting David Zaslav get away with that.
No, never. And I support Nolan in his choice to jump over to Universal.
Yeah. Overall, it was awesome to see the movie theaters that packed.
Absolutely.
And it hasn't been like that in a long time, maybe since the pandemic. And, when we went to see it, the concession line was like down the hall
through the
and
door, yeah.
every seat was filled. And it's just great to see the theatrical experience fully coming back and, being packed like that.
Absolutely. And not only that, like to see people like kind of get even more involved, not just like going to the movie and getting concessions, but like wearing pink for Barbie
Yeah.
or, smoking a pipe and wearing a fedora for Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
People are like, they're really excited to embrace the whole world and become a part of it and like kind of join the trend, which is pretty cool.
I went dressed up as an atomic bomb.
Sure.
Nice.
That's one way to do it.
Was it a pink atomic bomb?
Yeah, exactly. It was
Okay.
it was a
There
pink
you go.
atomic bomb. It had I had a little like the little K for Ken
Okay.
on the atomic bomb.
Well done.
I'm wearing my B shirt right now for Barbie.
Okay.
Sure.
Well done.
And for Bob Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Bob.
They
Bobby
call him Bob.
Ops is
Bobby Ops.
There you go.
as he's known. And I, of course, am wearing a watch which signifies the timer. Of
Sure.
the bomb.
Time existed in both
Right.
Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Time
We're
was there.
thinking ahead here. We're planning ahead. The show is just, it's a phenomenon, just like Barbenheimer.
Yeah, the amount of pre-production work that you put into this show is, I mean,
No idea.
and you
mean-
can see every penny is on the screen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these cups are practical.
That's true. Yeah, no CGI cups. We're shooting it Nolan style.
Yeah. So let's start with Barbie first. Derek and I saw Barbie recently. We saw Oppenheimer first, then Barbie. What was your viewing?
order? Did you?
Yeah, so I was hoping to do the same thing, see
Mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer first and then see Barbie, because you watch the long drama movie and then you kind of end it on a more lighthearted note.
Interesting.
But IMAX tickets were pretty tough to get, so we kind of scheduled our screenings around the IMAX slot we could get for Oppenheimer. So we ended up seeing Barbie at like 10 o'clock in the morning and then saw Oppenheimer after that.
Very nice. When I first knew that both films were going to be released on the same day, I was hoping to see Barbie first and then Oppenheimer, just because I like to leave a theater, depressed and
Sure.
anxiety induced.
Sure. That's how I
But-
normally walk into theaters.
Sure, exactly. But we focused our attention on Oppenheimer, and then due to busy scheduling, saw Barbie a couple weeks later after the blast had kind of dissolved a little bit.
Yeah, after the radiation
after the
fades a little
fallout.
bit.
Yes,
and-
yeah. We took a bunch of iodine pills and iodine.
Yeah, iodine.
Iodine,
Sure.
yeah.
That's
Maybe not.
Maybe.
My knowledge is exclusively from Chernobyl, so
That's
I
exactly
don't-
where I'm getting it from, yes. So, Barbie. Hilarious.
What about it? Oh,
Great.
Funny.
yes. Yeah.
Great movie.
Great
Just
movie.
really, really fun.
I really enjoyed it. I was always kind of hopeful that I would like the movie. I really like Greta Gerwig,
Yeah.
and I don't think that there was. I think specifically because Greta Gerwig was the name attached to it
Yep.
was the thing that got a lot of people thinking, okay, it's not just going to be Mattel property, the movie.
Right.
If they
Right.
got Greta Gerwig, she's probably going to say something in some kind
Exactly.
of way.
Yeah.
So,
So you were fully anticipating not just the fun movie, but also the other side to it.
yeah, I mean, I think the movie I've been comparing it to was the Lego movie, where it's kind of this IP that doesn't inherently demand a movie being made of it. But in spite of that, you have artists who take the property, show affection for the property, acknowledge what the property has been to people in the world and throughout history, but also taking it and adding some unique elements to it, giving it some heart, giving it some more value.
Yeah.
And both movies have Will Ferrell.
And both
both
movies have
Will Ferrell.
As the
Yes.
kind of outside force that is
Yes.
kind of invading the kind of fantasy world.
Yeah.
Definitely the pinkest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The production design was just incredible.
top notch. Absolutely.
And it was a lot of fun to see how they didn't just have like Barbie the Barbie world wasn't just a regular world that was like pink and had Barbie. Like
Right.
they just like lifted from their homes to the ground, like they were being picked up and placed.
Right. Yeah.
When the costumes were thrown out.
Oh sure, the
In
nice little
various
freeze
scenes,
frame.
the nice
yeah.
freeze frame, and they kind of like moved, and it showed the logos.
Yeah, I liked the detail of the cups not having actual water in
Yes.
them, because like that's how you put
No water in the cups, no
Yeah.
water coming out of the shower,
Right.
Yeah,
no actual water on the beach,
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
because Ken's job is beach.
is beach.
Yes.
Yes,
But he cannot go in the water.
he cannot go in the water. No,
Just beach.
just beach all day.
No, a lot of those elements that kind of play on the fictional world of like the ambulance that opens up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
has
that
like
was
the
great.
fold-out table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the production design was really good, and it was just entertaining to watch. And although I'm not necessarily the biggest consumer of the Barbie products, it did
Sure.
seem
Really?
that, yeah, no, not particularly. It did seem that like everything was kind of based off something in the scene where they're in the car and she's like, oh, I had that playset, I had that house, and stuff like that. So it seems that like the buildings and everything there, I'm sure if someone was a more avid consumer of the product, they'd be able to say, oh, I see that, I had that one, I had that
Oh my
one.
God, it's Midge.
Yeah, right,
You know?
right.
Well, they do a pretty good job of. There's not really a knowledge barrier to entry for
Agreed.
the movie.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like Michael Cera's character, for example,
Yes.
the character Alan.
Alan.
Yeah.
I had no idea who Alan was, but the movie does a very good job of, without directly telling you anything, kind of being like, oh, Alan's probably like a not successful toy that lasted for a couple of years and then was pulled off the shelves or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. The movie was just super, super clever.
Yeah.
Not just in its messaging, but also in the way the film was marketed.
Oh yeah, the marketing for this was
It was
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Even just Margot Robbie and all the various interviews she did in the red carpets, like the different Barbie outfits.
Yeah.
They played it super, super well. And the way that the messaging was done, and the fact that it appealed not just to, young girls or girls in general or feminists, it really appealed to everybody. And it did have a strong feminist message, which was great and super well done. But it also had characters like Ken and Ken and Ken and Alan and
Alan,
Ken.
yeah.
And like it really appealed to everybody, and it felt like an inclusive film, but it wasn't. It was blatant, but not in a negative way. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
I think it was kind of broad strokes because it's something that you want to have appealing to young people seeing the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to be a complex treatise on the the patriarchy.
Yes.
The patriarchy
Yes.
is kind of this nice kind of coverall that they throw out there as just kind of the bad stuff.
Right.
In a way that makes it very kind of easy to follow the trajectory of what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. Another element of the film I really liked was the narration. I thought that it was really funny.
Sure.
It was-
Helen
it
Mirren
was
is just
used well.
always
Yeah.
elevates material. And the way they broke the fourth wall without spoiling in one
Yeah.
particular scene was masterful, I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Super, super clever. And they had the way
It was
they
actually
melded.
really unfortunate because Helen Mirren originally auditioned for Ken, and they were like,
Right.
I'm sorry, we've already casted Ken and
Yes.
Ken and Ken
And Ken, right.
So they were kind enough to give her the narrator role.
Speaking of original casting, the original casting for Barbie was not Margot Robbie. It was instead supposed to be Amy Schumer when this film was in development.
Really?
Is that actually true?
That is 100% true.
I did not know that.
What are your thoughts on that and how that would have changed not just how the film is performed, but also the film, overall? Because I thought Margot Robbie's performance was amazing and
Yeah.
within the top 3 performances she's ever been a part of.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of impossible to think of anyone else besides Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling for either of those roles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, Ryan Gosling as Ken was definitely like a scene stealer and
Yes,
just
for
Yeah.
sure.
that man understood the assignment.
He
He
did.
absolutely did, yes.
Yeah, I mean, both him and Margot Robbie. You would have assumed that since it was a Greta Gerwig film, that it would have been Saoirse Ronan and Timothy
Right.
Chalamet.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I mean, this is dream casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it definitely would have changed the film, and I feel like it wouldn't have appealed to both the lovers of Barbie and the people that were looking for the lampooning of Barbie. Because the film does a good job of doing both by having, the stereotypical Barbie being this, the most beautiful person
Right.
ever and having
Yeah.
all the outfits and,
I mean, that again goes back to the amazing marketing that they did for this movie,
Right.
where
Yeah.
the trailer for the movie kind of uses the tagline of "If you love Barbie, this movie is for you. If you hate Barbie, this
exactly,
movie is for you."
right.
So they
Really
do
smart.
equal measure of having affection for Barbie and having calling out the aspects of Barbie. America Ferrera's daughter does a really good job with her, monologue at the lunch table where she's talking about, how Barbie is sets these unrealistic
Yes.
expectations for women. Is this,
Right.
idolizes consumerism and all of these kind of materialistic kind of things.
Right.
She calls her a fascist at one
Yes.
point,
Yeah.
which is very funny.
Yeah.
It's so,
funny.
that
And I
was
like how
a
they
great
do
job.
show both sides. Like right at the beginning, it's talking about how now girls don't have to just be like playing as mothers with baby dolls. They can
In
play
the
as,
nice
like,
parody of
2001.
Nice parody,
Yeah.
Great.
yeah, which was awesome. So I really like how it marketed that it was going to be playing to both sides, and I think it really delivered on that.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. There's a lot of great movie references. The Monty Python, with the galloping of the
Oh,
horses at one
sure,
part.
yeah.
I like that it acknowledged the film bro kind of
Yeah,
stuff. and nice
the
little
guy
Easter eggs.
whose dream date is sitting a girl down and explaining The Godfather.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really
that
funny.
was
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And then how every Ken just wants to play guitar.
Yeah.
The line that I thought was
accurate.
so perfect is Ryan Gosling, I believe, says, "Can I play guitar,
Guitar
at you?"
Exactly.
At you, right.
Perfect.
Yeah, that
Absolutely
was hilarious.
perfect.
Yeah, I love how it like really broke down that stuff and just made fun of it. It was so
The
so
camera
well done.
pans out to show 1,000 campfires
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
every guy strumming the same
Yeah.
song.
So funny. Let's talk about Will Ferrell's character and the real world kind of aspect to the movie. Definitely something we've kind of seen before with like the
Fish out
evil
of
suit.
water
Yes, and it reminded me of Elf a little bit and kind of like the whole like the beginning part where Barbie and Ken kind of enter the real world and are just kind of experiencing
They got like their
things.
like neon
Their-
outfits
yes,
and they're
the
skating.
roller skating.
And, yeah.
I love, by the way, how Ken was like, everyone's looking at me. This is awesome. And Barbie's like, everyone's looking at me. This is terrifying.
Yeah.
But I thought Will Ferrell was a great addition to the cast. He was definitely Will Ferrell, and that was a good thing in this part. And he added to all the scenes. One of my favorite parts was towards the end when his character is kind of delivering a brief monologue and talks about the stresses of being CEO and how he constantly has to stop meetings just so everyone can tickle each other. Just the movie overall had a great like playfulness and lack of seriousness to it, which
With like the chase scene when they needed like the key card and they're like, oh,
Yes.
we don't need it.
oh, we don't need it, and then they just like walk through.
I love the choreography of all of them running kind of like
Yes.
Terminator 2 style. I mean, I liked Will Ferrell. I normally appreciate Will Ferrell in smaller doses, or at least like slightly toned down to some degree. Sometimes he goes a little too hard. I thought that he was very appropriately used in this, but I do think that it was kind of the storyline that didn't quite work for me.
Sure.
Because I feel like there was some kind of deleted scene in the third act or some kind of bridge, because we get to the part where all the executives are in Barbie land and are kind of observing the chaos that all of the Kens are bringing into the Barbie world. And then they kind of disappear off screen, and then he shows up later and
For
it's
an
just like, oh yeah,
extensive
I'm a good guy
period
now.
of time.
Yeah. I was hoping for more of kind of a antagonistic kind of relationship, that some kind of confrontation there.
Yeah.
But no, as a kind of the CEO character who's representative of the outside world, I thought it was great.
Were there anything else in the movie that you didn't really think landed all the way, or you thought could have been improved? Kind of like the possible missing link between those two parts of the movie. Anything else that kind of?
I mean, not every joke works. I mean, the important thing is, for the most part, you don't remember the jokes that don't work.
Yeah. Right.
You remember the jokes that do work, and those ones really hit. But like, for example, Kate McKinnon, who always gives like 110% in any role she has. As a result, she's committed to every line she has. So it's like when she delivers a line that works, it's like, oh, that's really funny. And when she gives just as much to a line that doesn't work, it's like,
Yeah.
Kate McKinnon did you think that one was funny?
Yeah. Interesting. Derek, anything
No,
jumped out
I
at
think
you?
Ian pretty much hit it. You know, I think that
1 point for you.
yeah, the pacing was pretty good. I didn't really have too many issues with that. What about you, Matt? Anything stick out at you that?
Not particularly. Maybe I think the mother-daughter relationship, that's definitely supposed to be like one of, if not, the main heartbeat of the story. It's tough when you have the teen that's angry at the world and, calls Barbie a fascist, which was perfect. I could have used maybe one or two more scenes with just the mother and daughter in Barbie Land having like another heart-to-heart.
Sure.
There is a bit of juggling being done for who's the protagonist
Right.
in any given
Yeah.
scene, because you have Barbie, Ken, as well as America Ferrera's character.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. Mom, I guess.
Yes.
Mom.
Yeah.
Mom works. Yep.
Yeah.
But all three of those characters are kind of sharing some kind of protagonist weight.
Yeah, especially when the mom and Barbie are together and they're, both in one scene, and, it's sometimes hard to tell, like, who am I really focusing on here? Who is more important to look at in this scene?
And especially because Margot Robbie's Barbie is meant to be a reflection of America Ferrera and
Right.
her kind of mental
Right.
state.
Yeah.
So it's, in a way, they are playing the same character.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the jokes about Margot Robbie in the beginning when she first has her first existential thought of death was great. Don't want to speak too much more on specific jokes if anyone hasn't seen it, but hilarious movie, super well done. What do you think are the chances for Oscar nominations and possible wins for Barbie?
I mean, I think it kind of goes back to Greta Gerwig, where it's like if you didn't have Greta Gerwig at the helm of this,
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like the Academy might be less inclined to take this kind of movie seriously.
Yep.
Agreed.
But since she is, I think there's definitely a possibility there.
I think there's something to be said about production design and
Production
Absolutely.
design, yeah,
100%.
it's a shoe-in for that one.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking.
A high heel in,
yes.
There you go.
I don't know. You,
Not a flat-
you
a
do
flat
the joke.
sandal.
I'll give you the
Yeah.
bits, and then you make a
Okay.
joke out of it.
I'll spend a couple weeks writing some material on that. and
Thank
then
you.
I'll
I
come back to
appreciate
it.
it. Yeah.
I think adapted screenplay maybe. I mean, we're only, a little over halfway through the year, so there's still a lot more things that can come out and potentially wow us, but it's definitely, the top movie at the moment, back and forth with Oppenheimer. I would love to see Margot Robbie get nominated. I think Ryan Gosling could, should, and might be nominated.
I thought you were
which
about
would
to
be
say
great.
must.
I
demand.
I demand
Yeah.
justice for Ken.
He is Knuff.
He
to
is
be
Knuff.
nominated.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
He has the right
That's a
energy
great
to do it, and I think he might have a decent shot at if he were to be nominated.
Sure.
Adapted screenplay, Greta Gerwig for directing, perhaps. I mean, it is a really good movie. It's doing very well. It's making a lot of money. Greta Gerwig is on fire right now. She's definitely, she'll work again.
Yes.
Not sure how I feel about the Mattel Cinematic Universe.
So this is kind of something I wanted to ask you guys, which is when a great movie like this does very well financially, that's like great,
Hollywood's eyes just turn green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money sign.
The spinning the wheel and the ka-ching. Yeah. But I couldn't help but feel a similar sense of fear and dread.
Yep.
Kind of like when I saw the
Oppenheimer.
headline
Oh, okay.
that the Mario movie grossed over $1 billion.
Sure.
Where it's just like, what does this mean for the future?
Right.
And how, just as Nintendo is now incentivized to make every property,
movie.
the Smash Brothers universe
Right.
becoming something.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that Mattel is going to continue to pursue kind of directors, big name directors to, put their spin on a Mattel product? No.
I don't
You
think
see it in the cards.
Hollywood sees like, oh, Barbie movie did great, and they ignore everything about why it did great, and they're like, oh, people just love Barbie. Let's make the Bop It movie, like
Right,
stupid
yeah.
stuff.
Sure.
They have
Let's
a
make
whole
Polly
slate.
Pocket, right?
They are
Like,
making
yeah.
They have a
Yeah.
whole slate of films that are in pre-production, and the reason this film worked is because you have Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, brilliant writers, incredible director, and someone who has a unique voice. Now they're just going to get people who will serve the system, and
They'll get their stars in, I'm sure, right?
Oh, for sure. And they might, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but
Because there's got to be some degree of calculation on their part. I mean, for the Barbie movie itself, I'm sure that the studio wasn't thinking, oh, people love Barbie, we'll make a Barbie movie. I think it was kind of a calculated decision to be like, okay,
Sure.
this is not going to be a PG movie, it'll be PG-13. And
Yeah.
we're going to get generations of people who have experience with Barbie, or people who don't have any experience with Barbie.
Right.
And we're going to put someone in charge of the project who wants to tell a kind of story, a story that could be told regardless of, what universe it was set in.
right. But my fear is that the studio won't be as inclined to give someone the rights to the story for them to take their own time, develop it, take their time with it, mold it the way they envision it. My fear is that Hollywood's going to be like, we need to make this
Get
movie,
things going, yeah.
get it out by next summer so that, it's a terrifying thought.
Well, there was a period of time, this is over a decade ago now, but I think that there was a period of time where there were tons of board games and things like that were in development to be made into movies. I'm not sure if it was just a deal with like Parker Brothers or something like that, but I remember that there was a Monopoly movie that was in the works for a long time. And as far as I remember, the only one that actually made it to the screen was the Battleship movie, which did not do well critically or financially, and then that kind of just scrapped that whole idea for a while.
Yeah. Very much a universal horror universe with the
Sure,
Mummy.
yeah, they tried that with
the MonsterVerse.
Right, the
Monsterverse,
Monsterverse.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, if you were to take a toy or board game, what would be spur of the moment, off the top of your head? What property are you taking and making a movie?
So when I was a kid, the
Uh-oh.
toys that I played with all of the time were Star Wars action figures. So I would love to see them adapt that, make some kind of Star Wars movie out of that or something like that.
I don't think that would work.
Why?
I think budgeting is an issue.
Sure.
Lightsabers,
Yeah.
that's just never going to work.
Yeah. No,
You have these like bear characters. People just won't get it.
Yeah.
It's just not going to do well.
Peop-
Ian.
yeah.
No.
There's no market for that.
No. And you are no longer CEO. I'm going to be
Oh,
taking
no.
over the reins.
Okay, so Matt takes over the reins.
Well, the answer is clearly the Yahtzee movie.
Okay.
No, that's a tough question.
Boggle the movie.
Boggle the movie.
Tagline. It's going to boggle your mind.
And you're back in, just
I'm
like
back
that.
in.
You're at the top of the game. Do you have one off the top of your head while I try and brainstorm? To no avail?
I'd actually be interested in seeing a Monopoly movie and how that would
No,
work.
no!
Fine, but make Brian Cox the Monopoly man.
Yes. Okay. All right. You're back in.
Yes, yes.
I feel like I had one at one point, and I lost it.
I feel like this is a conversation we've had before.
I feel like I had like a really good one that I was like, you know what, maybe I got to do it, and then it's slipping my mind. But
You can have Bop It the movie. Mattel has called us up.
All right. You know what?
Maybe a Catan movie, and it would just be the most boring movie ever. Of people like, oh god, there's just not enough brick these days. I can't make my settlement.
Yeah. Or like the Oregon Trail, and it's just like a gritty
Sure.
like historical
Like a
movie,
one.
but then it's like supposed to be like a historical piece, but then it just goes into like all the struggles of like the cards that you draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like someone gets bit by a snake and just dies, and
It's like, where's John? He got dysentery.
Yeah.
Not again.
Yeah.
Everyone dies of dysentery.
Yes.
And you make like fording the river happen like so many times where you have to just keep fording the river.
I can't think of one. I don't know.
I like the Catan idea.
the
Yeah.
Catan- I don't think it would do very well. If it was an art house movie, maybe.
Sure. Well, Christopher Nolan could direct the
Christopher
Catan
Nolan
movie.
could.
Speaking of Christopher Nolan.
Yes, Oppenheimer, a juggernaut of a film, 3 hours in length. Every artist has to make their lengthy
3-hour
magnum
movie.
opus.
Sure.
And I loved it. I loved it. That having been said, I must clarify, I'm a huge Nolan fan. I just had to take off my Nolan hat before we shot this. So I was always going to love this movie.
Every time I see you, you're always in a suit and speaking with a British accent. So
I am,
Yeah, this is
yes.
the first time we're seeing the real Matt.
I carry around an IMAX camera. It's
Yeah.
not a real one. It's just a cardboard one. It just says IMAX on it. But yeah, I was always going to be in love with this film, and it didn't disappoint. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Big fan of Nolan's work, and I had very high expectations going into this movie, especially after, in the years leading up to its release, just seeing casting announcement after casting announcement after casting announcement, all people that I'm very fond of. And
After
even the
casting
smaller
announcement
ones.
after casting
and there's still a few
announcement,
more.
because
in
there's
there.
like 50 people in
Yeah,
this
and
movie.
even the smaller ones like Jack Quaid or, any of the smaller
Sure,
ones. We got
Bongo guy,
Roderick.
sure.
Roderick's in there.
Roderick is.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing
You
him
got
at all.
young Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich,
Sure.
who actually I thought did pretty well
Yeah.
when he got the spotlight. So just seeing all those casting announcements leading up to it, and then knowing it's Christopher Nolan, I was always anticipating it to be really good. Then the reviews came out really good, and I think that my expectations were definitely met, and I'm happy they were because they're really high. Bar was high.
Ian.
I appreciate Nolan. I won't lie and say that I'm as much or more of a Nolan fan than you guys are, but I promise you, I promise, I'm not a Warner Brothers insider. I swear. No, I mean, I would say Christopher Nolan's movies are undeniable. So any small issues I might have with his directing style or his overcasting or his strange sound mixing, any of those things, regardless of no, I thought that this movie was terrific. I mean, I am also not exactly a big fan of biopic movies.
Interesting.
Because I feel like those movies fall more into the trap of being paint by numbers, of kind of, we're going to see this whole person's life. They had a
100%.
tough childhood, and then that was their call to action that made them do this great thing, that, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that a big strength with this movie as a biopic and as a Nolan film is the way that it's divided up into these distinct periods of time.
Okay.
So you have the period of time that's marked by being black and white, and that's kind of the period of time in which Oppenheimer is after the success that he has had, kind of his fall from grace almost. And then you also have this distinct period of time of him working on the bomb and him building it, and this kind of ratcheting up the tension as they get closer and closer to the finished project.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think another strength that I really liked was Cillian Murphy as the lead,
100%.
and just the emphasis on it being told from his point of view. I know that the script was even written in first person, which is like super crazy,
mind-boggling,
like weird to like read.
Okay, Nolan.
But the way that everything was told from his perspective, and you really feel the tension, in the little private, not court or not like trial, but like definitely like he's getting like persecuted and hammered with questions.
The broom closet where an hour of this IMAX movie takes place.
Yeah.
In that scene, you can just see in his eyes, and every time
you can always see into Cillian Murphy's eyes.
Always, always. And I'm so
absolutely.
happy that he got this role. He was perfect, and really, it just felt like it was from his point of view through and through.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, 100%. He was absolutely incredible and so captivating. It's someone of his caliber as an actor that you would watch this 3-hour film that takes place many times in a broom closet. But your eyes always go to him, and that's a credit to Nolan too. One of the reasons Nolan is my favorite director is because no one does scale like him. When you're watching The Dark Knight, you feel like Gotham is on the brink of chaos and it could fall, and everything's riding on Batman's shoulders. And when you're watching this film, which is predominantly people in a room talking, it feels like everything's riding on this. This could be the end of the world. Even after, like, it's a true story. We know, spoiler alert, the bomb goes off.
Yeah.
What?
It works.
Yes, it works. Not just one. There were 2 bombs.
Yeah.
And the fact that we know that going into this, and when they're making the bomb, and we didn't even see the bomb drop, when they're testing the bomb, which is the climax of the movie, it feels like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And in particular, the sound design is always incredible with this film. Tenet, maybe, but that was a choice for some reason.
So I like how, going back when we were just talking about where we didn't get to see the bombs drop or the aftermath of that, that also goes back to it being from Oppenheimer's perspective.
Sure.
And I really enjoyed that because we all know what happens, and we don't need to see it necessarily in Japan. So I really like how that goes unshowed, and they use the test as like the big bomb going off moment. Right. I don't think it would have been necessary to add that in there. I think kind of would have taken away from the earlier scene of the test.
The real double feature should have been watching Oppenheimer and then watching Grave of Fireflies.
Sure. Yeah. I think going off of your point earlier about the paint by number, I think a lot of other filmmakers would have broken that subjective kind of point of view and shown that just to show, like, this happened, I'm showing a true event, everyone love me, give me an Oscar.
Right.
And his commitment to Oppenheimer's perspective, and then Robert Downey Jr.'s perspective in the black and white scenes.
So good.
He was great in the film. It's great to see him being somebody else. I love watching Robert Downey Jr. be Robert Downey Jr., but
Well, just quickly before we jump into the
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. of it all, I think that a nice add-on that we get, since we're not seeing the bombs drop on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but we do have that very haunting scene in the auditorium
Yes,
that
my
is
favorite
from
part.
his perspective and does illustrate the horror of the weapon that he's just used.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's this nice match of getting it from his perspective, getting the kind of internal anxiety, shock, terror, horror
Yeah.
that he's experiencing, the kind of camera shake as the room's vibrating around him.
Yeah.
And as he sees these people cheering, and the cheering drowns out. And it's quite a moment that kind of really hammers home the weight of this weapon.
Yeah, 100%. That scene was just stunning and haunting. And again, Cillian Murphy just portrayed that to perfection.
Yeah. It's just, even when he's standing there staring at a puddle, it's like,
Yeah.
you can't look away. And all the ways that they showed, like the loudness in his head, and you would hear that like stomping like multiple times throughout the movie, and then you finally see like
What
it
that
was.
Yeah.
Oh, and that actually brings up another point, is we had a different composer on this one. We didn't get our old buddy Hans, who normally
Good
does
old
most
Hans.
of Nolan's movies, but
Yeah.
we got Ludwig.
Yes.
Ludwig
Ger-
the guy who does The
The Mandalorian.
Yes.
That guy.
the guy who did the original score for the TV show New Girl. That guy.
I love when you just throw out a random.
Don't worry.
I don't know how that one goes, but yeah.
But yes, yeah, score was amazing, and definitely again adds to the constant tension throughout the film.
And the tension was one of the best parts about it, and makes that 3-hour film.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it feel shorter, but it you really feel on the edge of your seat the whole time,
Yeah.
even though you know what happens historically and you know how things are going to go. But Nolan has a way of just making a scene in a broom closet feel like, you said earlier, the end of the world. And it just is so entertaining through and through.
And Jason Clarke was also very good in as kind of the interrogator of the scene. He does a
Yes.
good job
Does a good
of
job.
Contributing to Oppenheimer's frustration and anxiety.
Yeah.
And how they're just kind of railroading him. It's kind of a witch trial, so to speak.
Yes,
'Cause it's kind
yes,
of like they've already
100%.
determined
Yes.
how it's going to go down.
Right.
There's a couple of scenes where Oppenheimer's lawyer is just like, guys, why didn't I
Yeah.
get to see any of this?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're just like, it's classified. It's like,
Yeah.
but you just said.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's talk about IMAX. Did you see the film in IMAX?
I did. I saw it in
did,
IMAX. Not the 70mm version that Chris demanded I see it
hard
in.
to come by.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw it in IMAX. I disagree a little bit with Christopher Nolan's perspective on the way in which movies are supposed to be enjoyed. I think he's a big defender of using the IMAX format for a lot of those things. It certainly helps in a lot of the stuff in the second act. A lot of those desert shots, the landscape,
Yeah.
everything leading up to the explosion and the explosion itself. A lot of that feels very cinematic.
Right.
But when you also are spending an hour in the broom closet, you can't help but wonder, did Nolan trick me into buying an IMAX ticket that I did not need to buy?
Yeah.
And it's tough because, like, if you experience it for the first time in IMAX, the first time you see a movie, you're experiencing it, and so it's hard to kind of judge retrospectively, like if you can't really compare.
Like fairly compare, right?
Right.
Like
Watching
you'd
it
almost
on
have
your
to
TV
see it
and then
the
watching
first time on your TV, and then also the first time in IMAX.
Yeah.
You can't,
Right.
You can't
and
do
then
that, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But that is a fair point. The broom closet wasn't the most beautiful broom closet I've seen before. I thought the black and white was beautiful.
Yeah.
Looked good.
I just love black and white in general. It
Yeah.
always looks super, super clean and crisp. Were there anything that you weren't particularly pleased with aside from the the broom closet location in IMAX demanding. Anything that you had some gripes with?
What about the MCU style name drop given by Alden Ehrenreich's character of JFK?
Sure.
There's this guy. He's putting together
trying to make a name for himself.
What's his name? John. It was like, oh, everyone loves him.
Yeah.
The post-credit scene was super cool to see him.
The
like,
bomb will return. Yeah.
JFK will return.
Yes.
Yeah.
JFK Jr.
I will be in the next movie. It's like, oh my God, JFK. Better than his part in Blonde. I'll say that.
Yes.
Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the question?
JFK, yes
I
or no?
derailed the question.
Gripes with the film aside from Broom Closet.
Gripes with the film. Well, I should emphasize, I love the broom closet scene. I was just like, it's not quite as IMAX-y as other stuff.
IMAX-y.
Was the camera on you? We need to have a close-up on Matt so that he says the IMAX-y. Wah, wah. No, I think the first hour of the film is a little bit slower and does have a few more of those scenes that are just like, what's your name, kid? I'm Robert Oppenheimer. You're going to make a name for yourself one day. A little too many of those scenes. I feel like Florence Pugh's character, a couple of scenes that really worked, but a couple of other scenes that didn't quite work. The way in which I guess we're not doing spoilers, but her character is only there for part of the story.
Yes.
And the way in which it connects to Oppenheimer's larger story, I'm not sure that quite connected as much. But I thought that all of the stuff with his relationship with Emily Blunt was great, and also had that connective tissue between their relationship as well as his overall perspective and his approach that he took to everything else.
It's tough because Nolan, a lot of Nolan's kind of criticism come from the way in which his female characters are written and portrayed.
Yep.
And I think this film, as much as I love Nolan and still adore the film, it definitely suffers from those same things. However, it's hard to kind of criticize that because, one, this is a historical film.
Right.
For example, the way a certain character story ends in The Prestige, as well as Inception, as well as this film, there's kind of a...
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're not...
kills all the ladies.
Yes. But again, it's
this
historical.
This is your favorite director again?
It is. Sorry. I liked Barbie too. But also, it's also tough because the whole film is married to the idea of his perspective. And if we were to step away from that and have Florence Pugh's character's perspective, or even Emily Blunt's character's perspective, it would help deter from that. However, that would fundamentally change the film. So I understand, and I do think that the film could have explored those characters and their personalities and their impact on the film better, and made them a little bit more dimensional. The way in which the film is set up, and it's tough to kind of go about it a different way, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I'd like to talk about the ending, without spoiling it.
Yes.
I
The
thought
post-credit scene.
No, before the post-credit scene.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I thought the ending was brilliant. I like how that scene was kind of revisited throughout the movie, towards the beginning, and then you finally get to see what happens there, and I really enjoyed it, and really had me leaving the theater like, damn, like that's.
It was a great moment of emphasizing Robert Downey Jr.'s hubris.
Yes.
I thought that was really
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah.
On how he's been stewing about this one moment from years ago, and it's just like,
Love it.
dude, not everyone's talking about you all the
Yeah,
time,
man.
bud.
people are over Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yes, I did say earlier when we were talking about the auditorium scene, I said, oh, that's my favorite part. The ending's my favorite part, but also the auditorium scene. The way the film ends is just utterly haunting.
Yeah.
It's depressing, and it's beautiful, and it's it's why I love movies at the risk of sounding pretentious. Just the way that it's framed, the way that, like you said, it keeps getting revisited, and just the questions that it raises and just kind of leaves you with. And when, this is something I've heard other people say, and when the film is over, you and I and the people we saw it with were just kind of in our seats, just like, wow. And we didn't move for like 5 minutes, just sitting with the weight of that. And it's things like that, and the way it cross-cuts and the way that scene's revisited, it makes you want to watch it again. Maybe not necessarily in IMAX, but who knows. But yeah, both films were great. This was a win for cinema. Any other closing thoughts?
I'd hate to do this to you guys, but if we were to pit these guys against each other, if we're to put them in a cage match,
You tried to do this to me the other day.
I did. It's only fair. It's only fair.
And I
suppose.
hated that.
Oh, it's so hard to compare two movies like this and say
Right.
that one's better than the other.
Very different movies.
It's so different.
And not even necessarily which one's better, but
Okay.
I guess which one
what?
Which one did you? I don't want to say enjoy more, because that definitely seems like it would be Barbie, because Oppenheimer's not exactly the film that you go like, woohoo.
Based off the question you're kind of asking, I think, again, I'm not comparing both films. They're both incredible. The answer is Oppenheimer for me.
Okay.
Because Christopher Nolan's my favorite director, because I had such high expectations, because the cast list, the way it was like ever growing, was super exciting, because of the fact that we saw it opening weekend, because of the fact that we did make it to go see IMAX. There was a lot the build up to this film was better in my experience than Barbie's, because of my personal expectations and the way it satisfied my filmmaker itch.
Then perhaps I'll turn this then into a question that
No.
you guys might be more inclined towards. But where would you put Oppenheimer in the rank of Christopher Nolan's films?
So this might be a hot take, but it doesn't break top 3 for me. It's right at the number 4 spot for me.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
that's interesting.
So your number 1 is Following. Your number 2 is Insomnia.
Yes.
Your number 3
Memento.
is Memento. Sure.
Yeah.
And very bottom is Dark Knight. Yeah.
Interstellar.
Yeah,
You know,
Interstellar.
I haven't seen that movie. No. Dark Knight, greatest film of all time. Fight me on it. Wrote a couple-page essay about it. Email us. We'll send you the link. Dark Knight, then The Prestige, then maybe, I think I agree with your number 4 slot.
Yep.
But again, I've seen Nolan's other films multiple times. I'd be interesting to revisit this, and then, as of right now, it sits on number 4.
Yep.
A loose number 4.
Yeah. Well, Memento does hit 5 for me.
Okay,
Just so you know.
sure. I mean, Memento is a very good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think, everyone has talked about The Dark Knight forever, and there's a very good reason for that, because it really is that good.
It's 2 for me.
2.
I'm sorry? What?
It's at the number 2 spot, Matt.
We'll be right back.
No, I think Oppenheimer is one of the most different Christopher Nolan movies, because very often there's an element of either supernatural or heightened reality or something like that.
Or everything's technically based in science and
Science.
But right, yeah. So the science of Interstellar.
Yeah.
Right? And even in movies that are real, like Dunkirk, for example, which I also really liked. I thought Dunkirk was great. There's the way in which Nolan kind of very rarely tells a linear story.
Yep.
But I think that apart from that one specific hallmark, Oppenheimer is kind of the most out there as far as a Christopher Nolan film goes.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated it in that respect. But I like all of his movies.
Yeah.
Even though he is not my number 1 director, it's hard to argue with the product he puts out. It's pretty consistently great.
Yes.
Actually, no. Oppenheimer loses points because Michael Caine did not play Albert Einstein, which if this was a real Christopher Nolan movie, he would have.
But you did have the Gary Oldman cameo.
Yes, he did get the Gary
Which was
Oldman
very
cameo
nice.
in there as Truman, which I did have to look up afterwards.
Really?
Because I was like, who
Interesting.
played Truman? I should have known.
Yeah.
But
All right. I think that calls it for this special episode, this Barbenheimer episode of Movie Time with Matt and Derek.
Yeah, definitely check out the playlist and see all our other episodes if you enjoyed this one. And we'll see you in the next one.
Next time.